Is Elizabeth Warren about to cost Bernie Sanders Washington state like she has cost him so many others? Let's talk about it. So after the Super Tuesday Part 2 fiasco, Bernie Sanders is not looking too hot right now as far as the numbers are concerned, and there are several factors for why that is. Now, we literally could go through the litany of factors that are affecting the outcome of this race. Some of them legitimate, some of them are not. I would say, honestly, most of them are not. But one of the factors that absolutely must be considered and discussed is Elizabeth Warren's selfish actions that have caused a person that she used to call friend to lose in states that he should have very well won by maybe 8 to 12% of the vote. This has been the case in California, where Biden has pulled in, Massachusetts, where Elizabeth Warren still got third place but took a healthy chunk of the votes, even in Minnesota, where a lot of people who were on the fence between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders went Warren because she was being pitched as the younger heir apparent to Bernie Sanders. Well, it looks like Elizabeth Warren's selfishness might have struck again, because in Washington, the results are in a statistical tie at 67% reporting as I'm recording this video. So let's look at some of these results. Let's look at the delegate count first. Of course, 17 to 17. 17 to 17. Bernie and Joe Biden right now are statistically tied in a state that Bernie won handedly in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. They're both at 32%. Bernie is leaning 33%, excuse me. Now look at that count. 335,000 to 333,000. Roughly about a 2,500 voter difference. Now I want you to look at Elizabeth Warren's numbers right over here. 12.3%. 12.3% of a good amount of voters who I think we can make a legitimate argument would not have voted for Joe Biden. Right? A lot of voters, especially in Washington, a lot of progressives, good progressives, like really good progressives, well-meaning progressives who may not have been all that engaged in the political process or may have been deceived. Warren is really good at deceiving. A lot of those voters really like Bernie Sanders. A lot of Warren's top surrogates, people who have worked for her campaign, have gone on to endorse Bernie. Warren took 126,000 delegates or voters away from the democratic process. Now, some people may have asked, well, maybe those people just really, really, really like Elizabeth Warren. A lot of people may think that, and they just were going to vote for her no matter what. After all, I know not all 100,000 of those voters, all of them didn't early vote. Maybe some of them decided the day of, this is who we like, and we're going to stick to her no matter what. Warren or bust. Yeah, except for that's not the case, people. Got some bad news for you. So Elizabeth Warren was probably aware, just like I was made aware, that Washington state has a very different way of voting in the Democratic primary election. They have a 100% mail-in ballot election. Yeah, that does not bode well. Here's why. Because Elizabeth Warren didn't pull out of the race until the day after Super Tuesday, maybe 2 days after Super Tuesday. Now, if this is a 100% mail-in ballot election, you can imagine that most people didn't quote unquote mail in their ballots the day of the second Super Tuesday, right? Okay. So as CNN and MSNBC trash Bernie Sanders while simultaneously uplifting Elizabeth Warren, while then, of course, simultaneously Elizabeth Warren trashes Bernie Sanders while uplifting Joe Biden. And then, of course, CNN and MSNBC were painting, all these mainstream media outlets were painting Elizabeth Warren as the heir apparent to Bernie Sanders. And of course, Elizabeth Warren was basking in that comparison, more than willing to take those votes away from the person she came in to spoil the race for. Those mail-in ballots, ladies and gentlemen, were already turned in. Maybe a little bit after Iowa, maybe a little bit after New Hampshire. But when Elizabeth Warren saw she had no path to victory, and that it seemed like the only person she was taking away votes from was Bernie Sanders. The main person anyway. And yet, this quote unquote progressive ally, like a lot of people would like to paint her as, she has led to Bernie's defeat in multiple states. And where Bernie did not get defeated, he should have finished with a wider margin. And unfortunately, the reality is he did not finish with those margins that he had grown accustomed to getting in 2016, because Elizabeth Warren has taken a good chunk of his voters. Now, of course, when you combine that with the pure electioneering that we've been seeing from the establishment with this differentiation and the exit polls versus the actual results, when you couple that with the inopportune, at least on Bernie Sanders' part, the inopportune endorsement and the coalescence of the establishment all right before Super Tuesday, and with the unfortunate reality that the black vote, the older black demographic is seemingly going to Biden in mass, Warren's endorsement at a key moment could have reshaped the dynamics of this race. It could have solidified her as maybe not a super progressive like a Tulsi or a Bernie Sanders, maybe not that high. But now her career will be forever marred by the 2 times you had a chance to do the right thing. You had the 2 times you had a chance to be bold and as courageous as your little speeches wagging your finger at Wall Street while doing absolutely nothing about it, by the way. Now your career will be forever tarnished. There will always be an asterisk by the name of Elizabeth Warren. Because at a time where it was make or break, at a time where it was life or death for many people, the person who said she endorsed Medicare for all, the person who claimed to be a friend of Bernie Sanders, the person who claimed to be an ally and a friend of the progressive movement, the person who claimed to want big structural change, stayed in the race merely to siphon off votes from the top tier candidate who had the ability and the movement to bring that big structural change that Elizabeth Warren claimed she wanted. Now, I do have to give a quick shout out to Fiorella from the MCSC network. Most of you all know her and love her. She's from the Convo Couch. Go subscribe to their channel if you've not. Fiorella made it a point that we discuss Elizabeth Warren and her being the spoiler for Bernie Sanders. She made it a point in 2019 in February, after we went to the California Democratic Convention. She said, we have to talk about this. I see it right in front of my eyes. People think that Warren and Bernie are the same thing. It's just that Warren is younger and a woman. That's not the case. We have to nip this in the bud now. Fiorella was attacked over this. And now look at where we are. Bernie does not only have to deal with election integrity against Joe Biden. He doesn't only have to deal with the lies, the manufactured consent by CNN and MSNBC. He doesn't even have to only deal with the coalescence of the establishment, but now you have to deal with a Trojan horse in a movement that you started and people who supposedly support you and your cause pushing this Trojan horse, and even people that work for you begging you to offer Elizabeth Warren a VP spot after she dragged your name and your reputation through the dirt, saying that you, Bernie Sanders, didn't think a woman could beat Donald Trump, while she simultaneously boosted Joe Biden. This is the reality. This is the reality. So now it's up to Bernie Sanders to discuss and weigh how important is it for you to look nice, and how important is it for you to fight in this revolution that you started. Is it still a revolution, or are we just trying to be a good Democrat? Who knows? But it must start with calling a spade a spade. And Elizabeth Warren, ladies and gentlemen, is a careerist. She's an opportunist. Some people would say she's a little bit sociopathic. She'll smile in your face and tell you a whole lie. The same woman who tried to claim that her and Amy Klobuchar are the only two not taking Super PAC money, and that was a lie. And then the next week, she says she's not going to disavow Super PACs unless the rest of the field does, which Bernie Sanders had already done. Also, what happened to, I'm not taking all that corporate money? She's a liar. She's a flat out liar and will smile in your face the entire time about it and then somehow make herself the victim. This is the legacy of Elizabeth Warren. And I hope that people can finally see that. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you like that segment of Mi Casa Su Casa. Of course, if YouTube is giving you trouble, as it always does, you can download the Rockfin app and follow us there. Also, if you want to continue to help our show grow, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon and donate as little as $1. Really, anything helps. Other than that, always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.